what got you started in this on this journey?
Well, it's similar to a lot of people's. It was through my own health challenges, which developed over many years, and I grew up in a household that was strictly Western medical oriented. We had our family doctor and all that other kind of stuff, and I was given massive amounts of antibiotics over the years and all kinds of other interesting things, and it all took its toll, combined with certain lifestyle aspects of being a recording engineer in New York City in the 70s and 80s and all of that kind of stuff. And I finally figured out, okay, this is wearing me out and I need to do something. And I knew I didn't want to go back to the family doctor because they took blood tests and then said, your blood's fine, don't worry about it. It's like, well, if my blood's fine, how come I don't feel well? And what can we do about it? And don't give me more antibiotics because it doesn't work.
It's not
I figured
helping.
that out. It took a long time, but I figured it out. So I went off to a friend of mine who had gone to massage school and then became a chiropractor. And, hey, Bob, what do I do? And he sent me to a chiropractor on the west side of New York City, which is where I grew up and lived at the time. And she did this wacky muscle testing thing, and I didn't know anything about chiropractors, kinesiology, anything. It was just, okay, I'm going to go do this. And it was crazy. I, laid on the table and she put a tomato on my stomach and I couldn't hold my leg up anymore. I'm like, oh, Bob, I'm going to get you for this. But
she's having a conversation with your body and you're just an observer.
Exactly. But that's the thing. I observed that when the tomato was on my stomach, I couldn't hold my leg up. And when it wasn't, I could. And it's like, okay, this is really weird. She took me off food and I got better.
Now, when I was reviewing your website, just to explore a little bit deeper, I noticed you had some different. Touch for Health is one of the things that you teach, applied physiology. But then I got really excited because I saw you had this holographic touch for health. And so I would love it if you could maybe expand on some of the things that you are teaching.
Well, probably, what I'm most known for around the world is teaching applied physiology.
Okay.
I've taught that for over 15 years, at least, and it's a very comprehensive and extensive kinesiology program and education. And it was developed by a guy named Richard Utt out of Tucson, Arizona, who left us a few years ago. And one of the models that he created was a holographic model, and the only one that I'm aware of. The whole aspect of the hologram is kind of tossed around a lot in terms of a model of the universe. But Richard actually figured out a way to apply that in a conscious approach to the body, and that was awesome. But what I noticed was that there are other ways to apply that model. And in Touch for Health is a little more of a, that's kind of where a lot of people begin in their path in kinesiology. Touch for Health was the original layperson kinesiology that basically started this whole thing. And at a conference many years ago, I created this idea of holographic Touch for Health and presented a way of doing Touch for Health, but bringing in this holographic model. And essentially a holographic model means that you're looking at relationships. You're always looking at relationships with two things. Hologram is a three-dimensional model.
Right.
And the reason we see in three dimensions is because we have two eyes. And we hear in three dimensions because we have two ears. And you create a hologram with two lasers that meet and collide and do what they do. So in a holographic approach to the body, we're always looking at a relationship of two things. And in kinesiology, there's a heavy-duty integration with the Chinese medicine model. So the meridians and all of that for in the body. And so with a holographic model, we're always looking at the relationship between two meridians which provides a massive amount of extra information, as opposed to finding one meridian, doing something to balance it, and then moving on and finding another one. So instead, we focus on a meridian, find another meridian that relates to it and has, an imbalance, presumably, since that's the model we're working on.
Yes.
And then do something about that relationship. And that has a much bigger effect on the body because a hologram has way more data and connects everything to everything. If you cut up a holographic plate into lots of little pieces and then shine the laser on one piece, you get that three-dimensional image of what you took the picture of. Even though you've cut it up into lots of little pieces, you still get the whole image.
Yeah.
Every piece of hologram contains the whole, similar to DNA.
Right.
So by working in a holographic model in the body, we're working on a specific relationship, but it's still also affecting the whole. So I took the Touch for Health model, and Matthew Fee, who's the son of the originator of Touch for Health, really egged me on to do this. He saw my presentation years ago and said, you really should turn that into a workshop. It took me about 7 years, and I thought, okay, I'll do that. And so it was a matter of just taking that model of looking at relationships of more than one meridian and applying it to the Touch for Health model of balancing to create that kind of integrated aspect. Touch for Health, the original Touch for Health model, John Fee's vision was to make kinesiology accessible to everybody, and so that people, in their own homes would be balancing each other as a means of simply helping to maintain better health and avoid having to go to the doctor. So it was presented originally in this way of, you don't need to know anatomy and physiology, and you don't need to know all of these other things.
Right.
Cherdut took a little bit of a different approach with applied physiology. Well, it was designed a little bit more for people who knew they wanted to be professional practitioners.
Okay.
And while it covers the entire realm, going up to, working with chakras and energy stuff, as well as physical stuff and emotional stuff and all of that, there is a little more of an emphasis on the advantage of learning about the body, learning anatomy and physiology, knowing, what diabetes is. So if somebody comes in, you have a range, you have kind of an idea of certain kinds of questions to ask in the body's language and which muscles to check and things like that. So, but it is a holistic approach. So the idea, starting with Touch for Health is you balance the body, and the body has then the better ability to access its own innate healing process.
Right.
And do that. We're going back to that initial concept. The body's designed to heal itself. And we are simply facilitators of that healing process and trying to help people empower themselves to do that on their own.